Cannibalism is hidden within the movie Midsommar. One of the outsiders visiting the Midsummer Festival is named Mark, and he is deemed disrespectful by the entirety of the cult. And this is because of an incident where Mark is caught peeing on their ancestral tree. The film then tells us that Mark was skinned in order to fill the fool aspect of their ritual sacrifice. But that's not all that happened. Here are my receipts. Soon after Mark is skinned, they actually end up having a big, meat-heavy feast at the cult. This is while most of the characters are currently tripping. So whenever the camera does pan over to the meat, they all look like weird shapes. There's flies all around it. It's very bizarre. And it doesn't look like any type of meat you've ever seen before. So the basis of the theory is based off the fact that they needed to use his meat for something, so why not eat it? But that's not all. This is also based off of the theory that the woman that was trying to hook up with Mark from the cult actually bit off his private areas. Or at least tried to, because after we see that Mark has passed away at the sacrifice, she is adorned with this red horn in this very interesting area of her dress. And she has some bruises and scuffs on her face to match, seemingly from fighting with Mark, which I would argue biting off somebody's junk is definitely cannibalistic depending on how it's going. Another detail in the movie that supports this theory is early on when they are driving into the cult for the first time, one of the characters is talking about how they heard of a woman who bit their boyfriend's junk off.
I'ma give it to you raw. 10 undisputable facts that absolutely double penetrate pyramid deniers. To be clear, this is not a conspiracy theory, speculation, or even pseudoscience. Just sheer cold facts about the biggest pyramid in Egypt. You use that brain of yours and make your own conclusions on what they mean. Challenge me on any single one of these, I dare you. The Great Pyramid of Giza was built with around 2.3 million stone blocks, weighing anywhere from 2 and 80 tons, some of which were cut from a quarry hundreds of kilometers away. But they did it by dragging them through the sand, right? The latitude of the pyramid passes directly through this coordinate, which just so happens to be the exact measurement of the speed of light in a vacuum to 9 digits. But it's probably just a coincidence, right? We're told that pyramids were built as ancient tombs for pharaohs, but not a single mummy nor human remains of any kind have ever been found in any pyramid ever, and that's a fact. Someone else probably got to all of them first, right? The Great Pyramid is facing perfectly true north within just 3/60ths of a single degree, making it also perfectly aligned with all cardinal directions, east, west, and south as well. But they probably just used the compass, which was invented by the Chinese over 2,000 years later. If you drew lines from out of the cardinal points of the pyramid and wrapped them all the way around the world, they would go through more land than any other point in the entire world, essentially placing the pyramid at the center of landmass of the whole world. Just another coincidence, right? Ancient Egyptians had hieroglyphs outlining nearly every aspect of their lives, but not a single one of them depicts the construction of the pyramids. They probably just forgot to record the greatest achievement in their civilization's history, right? The original height of the pyramid, around 146.73 meters, is virtually an exact scale of the distance between the Earth and the Sun on the perihelion, which is the Earth's closest approach to the Sun within 0.1% margin of error at 147 million kilometers. Has to be another coincidence, right? The perimeter of the Great Pyramid as a ratio to its height is the same as the ratio of the Earth's circumference at the equator to its polar radius to within 1/3% margin of error, essentially making the pyramid a scale model of the Earth. Take a moment to digest that, and yeah, it has to be another coincidence, right? The Great Pyramid of Giza is estimated to weigh around this many metric tons. The entire mass of the Earth is that many metric tons, making the weight of the pyramid an almost perfect scale of the Earth's total mass to, again, within 1/3% of accuracy. Yeah, these are definitely all just coincidences, right? The largest stones in the pyramid are found in the ceiling of the king's chamber. Red granite weighing up to 80 tons, which is as heavy as 2 Boeing 737 planes cut from the Aswan quarry over 1,000 kilometers away. But they probably just used ropes and sleds, right? Ain't no one can deny these cold hard facts of the Pyramid of Giza.
This 8-year-old girl vanished into thin air, and then her body was found 1 week later under her 14-year-old neighbor's bed. On November 3rd, 1998, 8-year-old Maddie Clifton was playing in her front yard and then mysteriously disappeared. No one heard anything, no one saw anything. It seemed like the 8-year-old girl vanished off the face of the earth. No one could imagine that the entire time Maddie was right across the street. Hundreds of people volunteered to help search for the missing 8-year-old girl, but it wouldn't be until a week after she vanished that the grisly truth would be discovered. Across the street from Maddie's house lived a 14-year-old boy named Josh Phillips. Josh was actually one of the volunteers that was helping search for his missing neighbor, but the entire time he was hiding a dark secret. A week after Maddie disappeared, Josh's mother smelled something awful coming from her 14-year-old son's room. So while Josh was at school, his mother decided to go in and clean his room. And that's when she discovered the dead body of her missing 8-year-old neighbor stuffed under her son's waterbed. Could you even imagine discovering something like that in your own child's bedroom? Thankfully, Josh's mother did quickly report what she found to the police. I feel like in so many other cases, family members, especially parents, try to cover up crimes for their children. I mean, just off the top of my head, I think of Kristen Smart's disappearance, but not in this case. And after Josh was arrested, he started to spill what he says happened the day that Maddie died. Josh says that that day Maddie asked him to play baseball with her, but while they were playing, he accidentally hit her in the face with a baseball, and that Maddie was screaming and crying. Josh says that he was terrified of getting in trouble, so he brought Maddie into his bedroom where he beat her with a baseball bat, strangled her, stabbed her, and slit her throat. A lot of people don't believe Josh's story at all. There's actually evidence that says that Maddie was not hit in the face with a baseball. No one heard Maddie screaming or crying outside, and many neighbors were outside at that time. And there's actually evidence that suggests that Maddie was SA'd by Josh and that was his true motive for committing this brutal crime. Josh spent a lot of time on the internet watching violent SA videos, which experts say probably led him to want to commit such a grisly crime. Reportedly, people that knew Josh were shocked to find out that he was the one that did this to Maddie. Apparently, he was one of Maddie's best friends and was described as not being the type to misbehave. People said that Josh was quiet and shy and exceptionally average. 14-year-old Josh Phillips was tried as an adult, found guilty, and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He will be in jail for the rest of his life. This is actually kind of seen as a controversial sentencing. I'm really interested to get your guys' thoughts here. I know everyone feels very strongly one way or the other. So please leave your opinions in the comments for me. What do you believe? Do you believe that minors should be tried as adults and or sentenced to life in prison? If you watched to the end, thank you so much for listening to the case of Maddie Clifton. This is such a tragic case of a little girl that had dreams of being a doctor or a rock star, but never even got a chance to really live her life. I love you guys so much. I know I've been saying that at the end of every video lately, but it's so true. You guys are the best, and I will see you guys tomorrow.
You ever hear the toothpaste theory?
Toothpaste?
Yeah. So
No.
you know how the toothpaste, at the bottom of that shit, there's always like a block of color? Where?
Yeah. What is that? What is that?
You know what I'm talking about though, right?
Yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah,
what
I'm
you're
gonna show you a picture. So you see the toothpaste, right?
Yeah.
So you either get black, green,
Yeah, the
red,
black.
or blue. You know what those mean?
No, isn't it just like anti-cavity?
No, they're all the same toothpaste brand. They're all the same type of toothpaste.
Oh shit.
But theory goes, the elites or the people that know the code stay away from certain colors of the toothpaste.
Whoa.
So it's like if you know, you know. The code is, if you have the green on your toothpaste,
Yeah.
it means it's all natural. If you have the blue, it says it adds natural plus medicine.
Okay.
If it has red, it's natural with chemical. And if it has black, it's all chemical. That's a theory. Because think about why the fuck does all the toothpaste have that shit, and it's all the same toothpaste. Now, if you were part of some like secret organization,
Yeah.
One of the strangest mysteries we've ever seen on the internet, part 2. So a few years ago, the internet went crazy when they found out these videos were actually uploaded in 2017. Then later that year, more videos were posted for 2021, which also became correct. But then the creator of the account came out and explained everything. Back in 2017, he had made thousands of videos including thousands of different celebrities. So then when a celebrity did pass away, all he had to do was go in and edit the video to show the correct date, and then publish it so everybody could see it, whereas it was sitting on private. This upset a lot of people because it was such a simple trick and nobody really caught it at the time. Since then, there's been a lot of other accounts try to copy this, and they are all completely fake, so if you see them, just ignore them. Guys, thanks for watching. As always, don't forget to like and follow.
The craziest coincidence in history, in my opinion, involves D-Day and a crossword puzzle. British intelligence lost their minds over this one. This table of Chads behind me really wanted to keep Operation Overlord a secret. Nobody knew when it was going to happen. Nobody knew when it was going to take place. Nobody knew any of the details. They kept this under wraps. And if you even speculated on any of the information outside of these meetings, you would be demoted, you would be punished, you'd be fired, you'd be sent off to who knows where. So you can imagine the shock on their face when British intelligence was doing a crossword puzzle and they saw the code names for their operation inside of these crosswords. What is going on? Every crossword had a different code name. You have Overlord for the entire operation. You have Operation Neptune for the naval aspect of it. You have the beaches Omaha and Utah. There was Juneau as well. You have the Mulberry Harbors. There were all of the code names appearing in these crosswords right around the time they were planning this operation. I just want to emphasize the gravity of the situation. Millions of lives are at risk because of this code word leak. All of this was in a public newspaper. British intelligence rightfully thought a spy was trying to leak some information to the Germans, but it wasn't. It was a teacher. He was also a footballer with some of the biggest quads I've ever seen. Good lord, this was back in the 1910s. How did you get that? Leonard was definitely not a spy. He was just a teacher and footballer who liked making crosswords, and he would ask his students for the words for his crossword puzzles, and then he would come up with the questions. When his students would play hooky, they would go hang out with American and Canadian troops, and this is where they got the code names from. These troops would be openly discussing the operations when they shouldn't be, and the kids would remember the details. It doesn't matter if there's a spy around or not. There's a reason they tell you not to speculate outside of these meetings. Let's just count ourselves lucky that D-Day went the way it did. It could have been much, much worse.
In July of 2012, Leah Hiller was training for the U.S. Triathlon National Championships in Island Lake, Minnesota. She planned to go for a mile-long swim, as she had done many times before. But what she encountered in this lake this time would turn out to be what nightmares are made of. The thing about Island Lake is that the water is the color of like dark rum. So if you put your hand into the water, you can't even see past your elbow. And so you have no idea what's beneath. So as Leah's father and two children stood along the shore and watched her swim, Leah suddenly felt a pair of tiny little hands grab her foot, followed by a sharp set of teeth biting into her ankle so hard that it penetrated the bone. All this happened so quickly, and whoever this little thing is that has grabbed and bitten her lets go. And so in these next few moments, she is so panicked and confused, trying to think, what is this in this lake that I've been in hundreds of times, literally during my training, that is now attacking me? I've never had anything like this happen to me before. And just as she's thinking that, she sees a small head only a few feet away emerge from this lake. And this head kind of looks around for a second and then sees her and fixes its gaze directly onto her and doesn't look away. And it's at this time Leah realizes she's looking at an otter. And she said, surely this can't be what just bit me. Otters don't attack people, do they? But what Leah didn't know at that time is that later doctors would realize that otter was currently infected with rabies. And so it had essentially turned it into this rogue, bloodthirsty otter that was staring directly into her eyes. Seconds later, this otter torpedoes back into the water and heads straight for her legs again. Then she feels a searing pain, she described it, into her calf muscle. This otter's teeth sliced through her calf muscle while its little hands were grabbing her leg. And at this point, she begins to panic and scream. She said, this thing is ripping me apart. I need help. It's crunching into my ankle bone. It's slicing into my muscle. I need real help, or this thing is going to tear my legs to pieces. On the shore, Leah's father sees this commotion. She's splashing and screaming and waving her arms all frantically and panicked, and he knows something's wrong. She's never done anything like this, and all the times that she swam in this lake, and so he quickly rushes over to a pontoon boat that he owned. But in his own panic of seeing his daughter in this state, this frenzied state, he accidentally floods the motor of the boat and it won't start, and he's not able to get out there this moment to help his daughter. And so Leah does her best to swim to shore, knowing she can't outswim this otter, and puts one hand over her throat, knowing that if she got hit there, she would not make it. And so she continues paddling to shore as fast as she can. The entire time, this otter repeated the same cycle. It would grab hold of her legs, bite into her, let her go, swim away, and emerge on the surface, looking around until it saw her position again, and then dart right back under the water and start it all over. This otter would go on to do this 25 times. Leah Hiller was ripped into 25 times by this rabies-infested otter before her father was finally able to find a neighbor's pontoon boat and fire it up and get out there to save her. When Leah was finally pulled onto the boat, her neoprene wetsuit was ripped to shreds on the entire lower half of her body, and blood was pouring down her legs. Her two kids were horrified to see her and instantly started crying, and she was taken to the hospital. Later at the hospital, when doctors realized that this otter likely had rabies, she had to receive a rabies shot in every bite wound, meaning she received 25 shots in her open wounds. But Leah went on to make a full recovery, and she continued training for the triathlon and did not let this stop her.
Pain's inexplicable. Like, it's nothing like I've ever felt. It just doesn't, you can't even comprehend. But I knew straight away it was acid. My t-shirt dissolved.
December of 2014, 30-year-old Andreas Christoforos was at home with his wife and young son when suddenly he heard a knock at his front door. Assuming it was just another friendly neighbor or perhaps a delivery man, he went to open it. But as soon as Andreas opened it, he only heard, "This is for you, mate," and was splashed in the face with battery acid. He says immediately he knew it was acid and ran through his house screaming for his wife to call 911 as he tried to find the kitchen where he would begin dousing his face with tap water. But as he ran to the kitchen, his t-shirt began melting off of his shoulders from where this acid was dripping onto it. And so finally his wife comes running down the steps wondering what is going on, and as she does, she has socks on, and when she steps in these areas where the acid has dripped off of Andreas onto the carpet, she recalls it disintegrating her socks off of her feet. Ultimately, he was rushed to the hospital where he was not expected to survive by doctors, but he fortunately has after more than 60 surgeries. However, he is still partially blind and forever scarred. The attacker, a painter and decorator named David Phillips, was later caught and confessed to police that he had driven 300 miles to find a man who he planned to get revenge on for SAing a member of his own family. But very quickly it was discovered that David Phillips had found the wrong house and splashed the wrong man. Phillips was convicted but has since been released from prison after his sentence was cut in half and is now back in society. Andreas says in regards to the pain of that acid attack, he would have rather been shot.
This is everything that happened on the news today, but it's going to be simplified in 60 seconds. People are losing their minds trying to find the snow leopard in this picture. This is the picture. Let me know if you can find it. Apple is now officially suspending their work on the Apple Vision Pro 2, and they're planning a cheaper version. I think that this is crazy because whenever the Apple Vision Pro first came out, literally everyone was talking about it, but where did it go? There's a new viral trend that's going around that everyone's starting to do where you basically eat a Kit Kat with ketchup on it. Ew. Something that a lot of people are just now learning is that there's an actual word called snacksident, and it's whenever you eat all of the snacks by accident. Okay. The FDA just issued an update on the chocolate recall. Basically, they're saying that the chocolate was recalled over fears that it may be contaminated with salmonella. And then they're saying that this chocolate that was recalled was issued to all of these states, if you want to pause and read. And then this is a list of all the chocolate that's recalled if you want to pause and read this. Also, there's now over 580,000 different glass coffee mugs that are recalled because they can literally break when they're filled with hot liquid. Is that not besides the point? And then here's all of the details for that if you want to pause and read this. I give you these news roundups every day, so make sure you add me and come back to me tomorrow.
What really happened to Daquan? In the early days of Fortnite, a new streamer would bust onto the scene and seemingly take over the game. Through skilled competitive gameplay and highly shareable clips, Daquan would quickly become known as one of the biggest creators in Fortnite. After getting noticed by Dakotas in a squad fill, he was invited to play in a competitive skirmish, and this is where his name really began to take off. But then, right when it seemed like everything was going right, tragedy struck and Daquan seemingly disappeared from the internet. Month after month went by and still no word from Daquan. Then, after being gone for quite some time, he came back to stream with some pretty tragic news. He had lost the life of a dear friend, as well as family members, and dealing with his own illness. He was being transparent and it seemed like Daquan was back. Then out of nowhere, he would disappear yet again. This time, months went by with no word at all, until years later, this billboard appeared hinting at him and Hamlin's return. Like and follow for part 2.
The full strawberry moon is now officially only 2 days away on June the 21st, and if you want to make sure you don't miss it, you're going to want to watch this video. So astronomers are saying that not only will the moon be unusually low in the sky, but it's also going to appear quite large and could even be rather colorful. So this is going to be cool to see. If you want to make sure you don't miss the full strawberry moon, we're actually going to be live streaming this entire event on TikTok, so make sure you register because it's going to be crazy. And by the way, for the live stream, we're going to be using all 3 of these smart telescopes so we can get a really cool picture of the moon. I think this is what's going to make it really cool. And then for whatever reason, if we don't have fun with those, we also have this one that we're going to try as well. If you don't know how to register to the live event, all you have to do is go on my profile and you'll just click this button right here. Astronomers are saying that on the evening of June the 21st, just after sunset, you'll look towards the southeast to watch the full moon rise gently above the horizon. And then they're saying that right there, the moon is actually going to appear large and like a golden sort of orangish hue. So again, I think this is going to be really cool. You want to make sure you don't miss it. I'm going to give you guys more reminders. I give you these news roundups every day, so make sure you add me so you don't forget.
A secret entrance was found inside the Great Wall of China, and there was a terrifying dungeon inside it with a creature that should not exist. Just 3 days ago, an explorer from Ohio was on his way to China to visit the Great Wall. He was doing this for a YouTube video, however. Things took a big turn when he found something impossible. As the man was traveling across the wall, he noticed a loose brick beneath him. When he went to lift up the brick, he was shocked to find that it was completely hollow beneath him. He began taking off the bricks one by one around the area and eventually uncovered a staircase that led inside the wall. At first, he thought this was just a part of construction, but that quickly changed when he came across a metal door, and when he opened it, he was terrified. On the other side, there was a tall creature that was chained up to the wall with wires connected to it. It had burning red eyes and 2 massive horns. The beast clearly looked to be like something out of Chinese mythology, and just before he was about to keep exploring, he had heard someone approaching in the distance. The explorer quickly took some pictures before getting out to see them comment, view images.
This is everything that happened on the news today, but it's going to be simplified in 60 seconds. The Netflix app is officially about to stop working on 60 different types of TVs next month, with thousands of people losing access. They're saying that Sony and Apple TVs are included in this, but here's the first list, and then here's the second list, and then here's the third list. If your TV is on this list, you're no longer going to be able to have Netflix. A father and daughter duo finally decode an alien signal from Mars 1 year after it was released. Okay. Basically, this was not a real alien signal. It was actually sent by the SETI Institute as a game a year ago. Obviously, they were finally able to crack the code, and they found out that it's actually an image of 5 amino acids. So for example, like hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen. People are only just finding out what Google really stands for after nearly 30 years. So they're saying that Google is actually just a misspelling of the word Google, and they're saying that if you don't know what that is, it basically means the number 1 followed by 100 zeros. I don't know what that means, but okay. The FDA just officially issued a nationwide recall for candy. They're saying that these candy products that are recalled were sent to Walmart, Hy-Vee, Target, and Dollar General, and then all of these states. This is the first part of the list of the candy recall if you want to pause and read. And then this is the last part of the list if you want to pause and read. This is obviously crazy, but I give you these news roundups every day, so make sure you add me and come back to me tomorrow.